These lands were once occupied by people and military proving grounds were established. Then the Kyiv water reservoir changed the life on these territories. People gave this natural area a chance for rebirth. The deserted interfluve area of the Dnipro and Desna rivers has overgrown with dense forests where elks, deer, wild boars and lynx reign, and the struggle for survival in the wilderness dominates their lives. So let's go and discover the secrets of the amazing and inimitable Mizhrichynskiy Conservation Park. The beauty and boundaries of these lands are incredible, and during a harsh winter, its colors and tones become colder. The Mizhrichynskiy Regional Park in the Chernihiv Oblast is one of the largest protected environmental zones on Ukrainian territories. It covers 100,000 square hectares and unites two very different landscapes: taiga moss swamps and pinewood bilberries, with grasslands and oak with floodplains. The pine forests are covered with a blanket of snow sand dunes left by glaciers, while the impassable swamps are located between the Dnipro River and its extended tributary Desna flowing to the left. The park was named based on this geological fact. The floodplain of the Desna River is very picturesque as it flows through natural channels that were untouched by civilization and where one can find both sandspits and scarp beaches. The high banks of the river, overgrown with oak and pine forests of offshore beach, majestically hang over extended lakes. Swimming and semi-aquatic birds feel the most comfortable here in the wild valleys with their rich bottomland meadows and lakes of the Desna. These places will be revived by cocks of birds who return to their homelands after several months as the snow melts and the rivers will no longer be iced over. Even migrating birds will find their asylum in their quiet sloughs. Weakened after long flights, the birds can rest in security in their natural habitat. In spring, when the floods erupt and cover the bottomlands with water, the flora and rich life attracts even more birds to this place. The Desna bottomlands sufficiently provide the stable population of swimming and semi-aquatic birds. White storks are not rare, but their population has drastically fallen over the past years. We have a lot of storks. It is indeed the largest colony in Ukraine, with several nests on one tree. The greater part of the park is forest of pine trees, mixed floodplains that occupy the central part of the largest section of the left bank of the Dnipro River, and large swamped valleys that are distinguished by huge swamp valleys and are reminiscent of some kind of military training grounds. People often wonder how a conservation area and two operational proving grounds can coexist. In fact, proving grounds are not a part of park's territory, but they are indeed located in the center of the park. However, the proving grounds have saved many rare animal and plant species. Undoubtedly so, because test shootings are conducted on the territory of the proving grounds, and the access of the general public to these territories is limited. The Mizhrichynskiy Conservation Park was somehow a result of the creation of proving grounds. The locals were forcefully transferred from the territories when building of the grounds started in the 1950s. The houses were razed to the ground, and the surrounding villages disappeared after some time. The appearance of the Kyiv water reservoir demanded the same measures 10 years later. In this way, people gave nature a second chance of revival. Without human presence, these areas had overgrown with dense forests where elks rose, wild boars, wolves, and lynx once again became regular inhabitants of the area. The conservation park is quite different from a reservation based on principles, as agricultural activities are not prohibited. Although the larger part of the activity on the territory is dedicated to forestry, there are certain restrictions regarding the protection of nature. For instance, there is a restriction on felling trees and influencing the age of a tree, which is the larger part of the territory. Notably, there are inviolable natural lands where people have no right to intrude or access. For the most part, those are large swamps in which rare animal and plant species are well preserved. Covered with snow-sedge turfs, islands of bulrush and bushes of vine reveals that the swamp is hidden away somewhere there. The Bondarevsky swamp, with a square area of 1,300 hectares, is considered one of the largest reservoirs. Similar to many other natural reservoirs in Ukraine, it is fueled by subsoil waters, which is exactly why it was given the name Lowlands Reservoir. Swamps have key environmental significance, because they contain water that settles and then flows into rivers. For instance, from this swamp the water flows to the small river Misha, and several kilometers lower near the swamp it ends up in the Desna River. In other words, fresh water that flows into Kyiv flows right through these swamps as well. As a rule, people treat swamps cautiously and without a specific need. They won't especially go there through the bogs to pick berries. However, elks occupy these territories that serve as a winter pasture for them. The safe haven and so-called willow bushes' extensive shrubbery are appropriate conditions for this voracious animal. About 130 elks live in a park based on the principle the more the merrier. Moreover, the population grows every year, although these hooves are becoming endangered and need protection in Ukraine. After turning out to be an easy prey for hunters, elks learned to be more careful, and it became harder for hunters to notice them. Indeed, the trails these animals leave on snow and other details reveal the secret life of forest inhabitants. One may find on the territory of the park such elk horns that were thrown away. What do we mean by thrown away? Elks, deer and roes don't have adhered horns like cows or goats have, and they also have a bony warp and lumped skin. The skins contain keratin, the same biological elements that people have in their hair and nails. When the horns are growing and they're soft and covered by skin, they become hard, the skin fades and peels, and the animals brush them on bushes and later utilize them. Only males possess such a crown, which weighs up to 6 kilograms. Horns are necessary for fighting with other animals during the mating season. Elks have more chances of winning when they have a grander attribute and smell victory. At the same time, horns are indicative of the male age and physical fitness. With such small horns, elks have no chance of winning an elk cow. Only a 1-year-old elk has such horns. However, his chances will grow when his horns develop and become twice larger in a year. Therefore, the male will mature year after year, and his crown will grow wider. One can identify the age of an elk up to 7 years strictly according to the number of tines. These are serious and massive horns. Elk has such horns that resemble a shovel when they mature. It is impossible to say that the number of horns indicates that the animal is 7 years old, because this animal may be 7 or 9 years old. The weight of the horns will become lighter when the elk grows old. A 20-year-old elk will have similar horns to those that it had when it was young. Simultaneously, an elk becomes vulnerable along with other forest animals because it is deprived of natural and seasonal defense. Wild animals are very timid and they're difficult to notice in the woods. The simple fact is that animals do not trust people after hundreds of years of hunting and fishing, so approaching them is not an easy task. However, human beings are very cunning and they think up many tricks to lure these wild animals. In this way, they even manage to imitate their voices to lure their prey. Hunters have since time immemorial sent out this call from a hogweed stem to attract deer. During the mating season, deer give out a specific and distinct sound that hunters can easily imitate using this artificial call. The forest falls into anabiosis, but some of its inhabitants do not fall asleep. These species experience hunger and trials of cold temperatures in order to survive here. At the same time, those who adapt and digest the uncommon feed survive in such harsh conditions. White moss and reindeer moss are a saving grace not only for deer, because it can help preserve the energy of human beings. People can also consume such food products as long as they are not raw. If they want to be healthy, you should boil it for 3 hours to a state of slime or jelly. Of course, they do not look very appetizing or tasty, but they are very nutritious. They contain a lot of polysaccharides and different proteins. Lichen is soft and elastic, while in harsh weather conditions it becomes very fragile. Due to this fact, it is easy to stumble. Islets of pine forests where these lichens grow are protected as plants of European importance. Nonetheless, not all the plants are protected according to European standards. Some of them adapted so well that they managed to crop and flourish even during the winter due to their semi-parasitic nature. Ball-like mistletoe bushes that are attached to and then grow on a tree crown have this specific nature. It obtains water-containing dissolved mineral elements from the tree, and in return, when the tree flourishes, it produces extremely beneficial nutrients. Naturally, the mistletoe does not benefit its host tree, though its harm is exaggerated as well. For instance, for human beings, it can be very healthy as a hemostatic remedy. Mistletoe berries have distinctive properties. They become sticky when mashing them, and it is very difficult to get rid of them as they stick to the feathers and claws of birds. Then the bird rubs their claws on a tree branch, and the seed starts to grow. However, along with plants and animals, those who are capable of warming themselves and finding a suitable place for rest during the night survive in a snowy forest. The construction of such an asylum was developed by our distant ancestors. The canopy serves as a roof and a wall that saves these creatures from wind and snow. The most important thing is that the tent should be provided with heat insulation made of twigs. If placing pine branches simply on the ground, with time they will be trampled and a person can get sick. However, if to place them as a second layer on the top of white pine sticks, they will protect a person from the cold of the frozen ground. One can start a bonfire nearby. The warmth that it produces will be felt inside the tent and will create a specific microclimate. One can find dry and easy to ignite branches for making a bonfire even during this season, when wet snow lays on the ground. Moreover, when working with fire during winter, one can avoid negative consequences. But if the weather is dry and windy, the risks of a wildfire increase significantly. The fire embraces the tree crowns in a matter of moments and spreads to large areas of several thousand hectares. Arguably, on the one hand, a natural disaster such as wildfire is ruinous for forests and its inhabitants. On the other hand, it can be rather ambiguous. If to take into consideration this aspect from a more global perspective and put aside the management aspect, wildfires may sometimes be necessary. Many dry sticks and pine branches may be found in forests, and it takes a lot of time for it to rot through.
Якщо проходить пожежа, то прискорюється процес мінералізації. Тобто поживні речовини, частина згорає, звичайно, щось там з органіка.
The process of screefing is accelerated after wildfires. In other words, the burning of nutrients and mineral constituents turns them into ashes that dissolve in the ground and accelerate the process of the inversion of nutrients.
Кругообіг мінеральних речовин, свого роду таке удобрення трапляється.
Ultimately, this means that the soil is naturally fertilized. Although it sounds controversial, wildfires are a phenomenon that bound to occur in any forest in the world, even though the accidental nature of it and negligence of human beings often initiate such disasters. Despite that fact, forest inhabitants are adapting even to such tremendous disasters by simply running away, while others survive and adapt to life in the ruins. For instance, a juniper prefers the soil that endured a wildfire, and a rosebay willow herb spreads the quickest in those areas where there was a wildfire in the forest. It is a natural food for hoofed animals and for bees and other insects, which are the source of nectar. So nature keeps everything in balance, and a wildfire or a major windfall may at times be very positive for nature.